Eberechi Eze could have his Arsenal medical as soon as tomorrow after £67.5 million deal is agreed with Crystal Palace. Good afternoon, welcome to the Transfer Show. The window continues to throw up surprises as Arsenal hijack Tottenham's move to sign Eze. It's a story that's got everyone talking, and it is certainly rocked North London.
The feeling is anger at Spurs, at Daniel Levy.
This just proves, you know what I mean, like where Arsenal are and where Spurs are in the pecking order.
I feel embarrassed, personally.
You know there's going to be like an avalanche of Sol Campbell banter coming.
It looked like it was all done, he was going to Spurs, and then within a matter of hours, he's ours.
There's Arsenal spending big bucks again. It's time to win a title, right?
Alexander Isak is the saga dominating the window. Is he any closer to joining Liverpool? The thoughts of Arne Slot on the way. Could Chelsea striker Nicolas Jackson be a potential Isak replacement at Newcastle? Enzo Maresca provides an update on the striker's future. Yeah, good to have you with us this afternoon. Michael Bridge and Mark McAdam are here, and we do start with the drama that has rocked North London. Eberechi Eze is heading to Arsenal after agreeing a £67.5 million move with Crystal Palace for the England international. So then, Mark, give us the state of play.
Like you rightly say, huge deal for Arsenal, £67.5 million for that man who had 2 years left on his Crystal Palace contract. That's a guaranteed payment of £60 million with add-ons at £7.5 million, which, ironically, is less than his release clause, which expired on Friday. Oliver Glasner took great delight in telling everyone that the release clause had expired. It turned out it didn't make too much of a difference with regards to this man's departure. We're expecting his Arsenal medical to happen tomorrow, and personal terms, not an issue because there's been talks between Eberechi's representatives and, of course, Arsenal over the course of this summer. So just a case, really, of a final farewell at Crystal Palace in what has been a really turbulent 24 hours in North London.
Yeah, very.
More to add, or?
Yeah, a lot.
He's shell-shocked.
A lot, Rob. No, look, this is the transfer window. You know, I got asked yesterday, is this the most exciting window I can remember? And look, it's a real blow for Spurs fans. I think, look, it feels like Emmanuel Petit too, you know, when he was negotiating with Spurs and then he got a taxi to Arsenal. There was that fear. I was thinking it yesterday when we heard the news that Kai Havertz had suffered this injury. Why aren't Arsenal going back in for him? So that when we got the information later that day, I've got to be honest, I wasn't massively surprised. But obviously Spurs fans are distraught now and time is ticking because they need to bring players in. A
big part of the story has been Tottenham against Arsenal, but there is another London club very much involved in this, which is Crystal Palace, who are in action in the Conference League tonight. Gary Cottrell is at Selhurst Park for us. It is a slightly strange scenario, given we know where he's going, Gary, as to whether or not he will play one last time for Palace tonight.
Yeah, it's happened to Spurs again, hasn't it? I remember Willian. I was outside Willian having his medical for Spurs and he drove away from the medical and then diverted to Chelsea. So, yeah, not the first time that Tottenham have been left in the lurch by a midfielder. Listen, I think he will play tonight. I know there are reports emerging suggesting that Eze may well not play tonight, but I still think that he will. Let's not forget there were reports 24 hours before he played for Crystal Palace at Stamford Bridge on Sunday that he wouldn't be playing. He turned up, he started, he scored, the goal was disallowed, and he was giving his all for the team during that game. And I think the same will happen tonight for several reasons. The first reason is it's a big night for Crystal Palace, their first night in Europe. He's the vice-captain. He'll want to be involved. He'll want a chance to say goodbye to the home fans if he is to go and have his medical at Arsenal tomorrow, and it looks like he is. And the other thing is that Steve Parish has got his way in terms of the fee, the high 60s in terms of millions fee, which is what he was looking for, and he'll get his way on something else as well, and that is that he was insisting any deal done for Eze, whether it was with Spurs or Arsenal, the player plays in this important game for the club tonight. So listen, we know, we've seen in the last 24 hours, anything can happen in football, but I still feel, standing here right now with a few hours to go to kick off, that he will certainly arrive with the team and certainly make an appearance. If he doesn't start, maybe not, but he'll certainly at some point be out there tonight.
And compared to some of the other scenarios that are going on this summer, you would think that Eze will get a fond farewell from the supporters inside Selhurst Park.
Yeah, they love him because, you know, he really is, I can tell you now, and the guys will tell you too, a really, really top guy. Not only a top player who's turned into obviously an England international in his time, here at Crystal Palace, not only the vice-captain in the leadership group, but a lovely, lovely guy who loves the fans, who loves the clubs, who wants to show respect to the club, and he's done that throughout this whole process. Listen, I think the contrast of what has gone on elsewhere this summer really does underline just how impeccable his behaviour has been. Training properly, turning up on time, giving his all in games. Yesterday, for example, I saw him what might turn out to be the last time he left the training ground. He left quite late. He left actually at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. By then he might have known that things were going to change in terms of his final destination in North London. He looked happy and he spent 10 minutes in his car having his photograph taken, talking to fans, even talking to one fan who phoned him up via his, I assume, his sister's or mother's phone for a chat on the phone in the car, signing as well, and gave me a wave as he drove off. So that is the kind of guy that he is, and I think will suit the Arsenal dressing room very much indeed. Would have suited the Tottenham dressing room as well, but I think that's a factor in why two big clubs are after him. Great on the pitch, but great off the pitch as well.
Gary, thank you very much indeed. We'll be back with Gary at Selhurst Park a little bit later on. It was actually quite significant that all of us were actually nodding along when he spoke about the qualities of Eberechi Eze as a person. Michael was talking about that injury to Kai Havertz for Arsenal. Is that the big thing that you think prompted them to go back in for him?
I certainly think that was the straw that broke the camel's back. We've been reporting on transfer shows throughout the course of the summer that Arsenal have an interest in Eberechi Eze, but they were calling at one stage despite talking to his representatives throughout the course of June and July. So a deal with regards to personal terms and the player's desire to potentially go to the Reds' Hearth of North London was all but agreed, but it was just based on certain factors. One of them was Ethan Nwaneri. Would he sign a new contract at the Emirates, which he ended up doing, which then maybe just made their interest slightly cooler. But then, of course, the big factor, Kai Havertz being injured, problem with his knee. We're not sure on the length of time that he's going to be out of the game. So they could suddenly pick up that agreement that had been on the table throughout the course of the summer and say, right, let's action it. This is a player we like. This is a player we know wants to come to the club. We've been speaking to his representatives. Everything is lined up and ready to go. And that was it. So it was all an easy transaction as far as Arsenal were concerned. They've got a player who's an England international, someone who's got a World Cup in 12 months' time, who is desperate to play for the club. So for them, it was a case of box ticks, box tick, box tick. Let's action it, get it done. And suddenly, Spurs have missed out on a player they thought was heading to North London, the White Half.
But I think that's a key point to make, isn't it? That it's not as though Arsenal just thought, on the off chance yesterday, let's sort this out. That this has been, parts of the structure have been in place for a little bit longer. And you wonder whether from the club side or the player side, that Tottenham have sort of almost been used a little bit to smoke Arsenal out and make sure that he ends up there. Because, as you said, without personal terms being a problem, that he would have liked to go to Arsenal.
I look at this situation, and Michael won't like me for saying this.
He doesn't like you anyway.
No, yeah, never mind. It feels like Arsenal have acted like a big club. This is, chapter 1 of the Real Madrid book of signing players. We are the biggest club in the land, and we can act how we want. And that's exactly the way Arsenal appear to have organised this transfer. They've sat back, they've been relaxed, they've been calm, knowing that the player wants to come to them. They've let Spurs do all the negotiation, all the donkey work, all the leg work, go back and forth. The noise in the media has always been about going to Tottenham. And suddenly, as other clubs have done in the Premier League this summer, they've gone in at the last moment and gone, fancy coming to us? Yeah, OK, we'll have you. That's what it certainly feels like in that respect. The way Arsenal have acted like a big club.
I think that's the fear with some Spurs fans. Until it's done, anything can happen. I think that's why, as well, Oliver Glasner, who I think's wonderful, said, yeah, he's in my squad tomorrow, because there were still a couple of things to iron out. I'm going to be honest with you, I'll be stunned if he plays tonight. Around £67 million worth. Palace can win without him. He can go around Selhurst Park pitch and say thank you without going on the pitch.
I think one thing as well that was in that agreement with Spurs is that there was a sort of gentleman's agreement or a mutual understanding between Spurs and Crystal Palace that Palace would like Eze to play in this Europa Conference League qualifying match. And am I right in saying that Spurs were comfortable with that position?
I think they're ironing out the finalities. I just feel, with a medical scheduled for tomorrow, I'm sorry, I cannot see him playing tonight.
I think that's bang on, and it might go back to your point about acting like a big club. If you're Arsenal, whoever's overseeing the deal, you're saying he's not going anywhere near that Europa League Conference League tie tonight, rather, because it only takes one tackle and the whole thing, it looks completely different.
Especially if you're a footballer and you're half-hearted as well. If you go onto that pitch worrying about getting injured, more often than not, there's a greater chance that you'll get injured because you're not committed in the challenge, in the way you play, in the way you'd normally style your game. So therefore, like you rightly say, Arsenal have lost Kai Havertz. Do they want to go and then potentially lose the player that they're about to spend £67.5 million on because of an injury, which essentially is just a farewell moment in a match? Whilst the Crystal Palace fans love him, he's been sensational for them. is this really the right thing to do? Actually, walking around the pitch, you still get the opportunity to say goodbye and say your thank yous, because we saw the way he was greeted when he left the training ground yesterday. The fans absolutely love him, adore him, and they're thankful for what he's done. So therefore, do you want to risk this huge opportunity and this big move? And let's be honest, this is the move that Eberechi Eze wanted. Going back to Arsenal was the key moment for him. He was a player that was at Arsenal as a youngster, and he's getting this dream homecoming, this dream opportunity to play for a club that is challenging at the sharp end of the Premier League. They'll probably get to the latter stages of the Champions League. This is a side that really should be winning silverware at the moment, and he's fulfilling his dream. It's full circle for Eberechi Eze. And one thing I will say as well, looking across social media, and of course at one particular account, content creators, rising ballers who do so much incredible work, looking at stars of the future. Here's an interview from 2022 where Eberechi Eze was speaking about that Arsenal journey and what it was like being released at the age of 14.
Arsenal's probably the hardest. Yeah. My dream is to play for them. So hearing them say no at 13, that was tough. And I remember like training after I got released, and I couldn't like focus. I was just crying whilst training, like doing everything. I was bawling. But I think that helped me so much in all the other rejections, because like if I can get through Arsenal releasing me, I can get through any other club releasing me.
I think one of the points there is about Crystal Palace, a huge night for them as well. This is their first ever European match tonight. So I think that the questions as to whether he plays or not is not to disrespect the part Palace have to play in it, more that them receiving the fee and Arsenal wouldn't want him to get injured in this game. Let's flip it to Tottenham then, Michael. Do you think the biggest frustration is that they need players in that position? Do you think the biggest frustration is it's Arsenal who've got him, or is it that Spurs fans are thinking, we've seen this before?
Number of factors. Firstly, yes, your biggest rivals, the North London derby, Arsenal Spurs, one of the best games in the Premier League. Arsenal have now got the player Spurs have been trying to sign. And unfortunately, their Spurs fans have just had to take it, and Arsenal fans really gunning for them, pardon the pun, at the moment. Another thing that's frustrated them, right, we found out yesterday Kai Havertz got injured. When did James Maddison get injured? A few weeks ago. That's frustrated them as well. So they're frustrated. They feel like they're back to square one. It's been very public. Morgan Gibbs-White, that situation. Spurs feel they couldn't have done any more in that situation. But Spurs feel they couldn't have done any more in this situation as well. They're just minute details ahead of completing the deal. I don't really go along with he supported Arsenal as a boy. I mean, if my son got offered an Arsenal scholarship, I'd go to Arsenal. Yeah, like it's about what he can offer.
Is that an exclusive?
The Spurs can offer Champions League football as well. It's a massive blow. Now what Spurs have to do, they've got to push on and get these targets. No prospects for the future. They have to improve the squad, and I think they're aware of that. I know they're aware of that. Look, and get someone on the same level as Eze, or with someone who can go into Thomas Frank's side and play Premier League and Champions League football. That is the challenge now. This transfer is done, gone.
One of the names mentioned, who had Andy Brassel on a little bit earlier on today, was talking about someone like Brahim Diaz, who has experience across Europe. He is a very unique player, Eze. What sort of player do they need to fill the Maddison gap? Because you'd also argue that Gibbs-White is a slightly different player to Eze.
There's one name I'm told from Monaco. Magnus Akliuch is a number 10, fantastic left foot, someone they've monitored. They've monitored a number of numbers. There's not one football club of any size in the Premier League that has one choice. They've got a number of choice. Look, in an ideal world, for homegrown reasons, England international, they'd have loved Eberechi Eze. Thomas Frank would have loved Morgan Gibbs-White. They're different kind of players, to be honest with you. But Spurs just have to move on now. There's a real frustration among the supporters. I totally get that, totally. And the fact I think if it was like a head-to-head for weeks, it wouldn't have been so bad. It's like, oh, OK. I think it was the fear out of nowhere it's happened, when it was so close.
Another part of the deal or the discussions was Richarlison and whether he would be used as a make-weight in any potential transfer. As a guy who scored twice against Burnley on the opening weekend of the season, it'd be interesting to hear his take on the way that this has played out and his name being involved in it all.
I mean, Mark will know, like when clubs, it's like moving house, it's like a domino effect. So I don't think I've seen a summer like it with so many players wanting to move on so desperately. We mentioned Johan Wissa, Thomas Frank likes him. It might have just been a discussion brought up. I don't think it went as far as we'll offer him straight away. What Spurs have to do now is just move on. They want a number 10, a left winger and a centre-half.
Quick one then. What does Arsenal's front four look like?
pretty dynamic. I know there's a lot
Who
of...
are the four was more the question.
Well, I think Victor Gyökeres at the minute will be the number 9 through the middle. I love the fact that they've got pace and energy from Noni Madueke. You'd imagine that Eberechi Eze will play as that 10 in behind. Odegaard maybe as an 8. Declan Rice alongside him. Zubimendi as the pivot before. I think it actually starts to sound quite exciting. Bukayo Saka on the right-hand side. Suddenly, this is an Arsenal team that have got no excuses when it comes to going and winning the Premier League.
We shall see. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will talk Alexander Isak because Arne Slot has been speaking, or maybe not saying too much about the future of the Swedish forward. Welcome back to the Transfer Show. The Premier League show is on the way at 5 o'clock with a special guest who has been heckling throughout the course of the last part. A very happy Paul Merson with the addition of Eberechi Eze. What do you think?
It's brilliant, isn't it? It's brilliant signing. Absolutely amazing. Brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm not in. I just come in to see Michael.
Just to see Michael, good, yeah.
I'm not in, really.
And I can tell you, he is delighted to see it. And Darren McAntony...
Good summer.
No excuses for winning the Premier League.
Yeah, true, yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Much more from Merce once he's finished abusing Michael at 5 o'clock on the Premier League show. Let's get the thoughts now of Arne Slot on Alexander Isak. Is there any update from a Liverpool perspective on the Newcastle striker?
What I can tell you is not a lot. And if someone else is going to ask that question, it's going to be the same answer. So, as I've said so many times, and it's been shown on Friday as well, I could even impact the game Friday with the players we had on the bench. Federico came in, scored a goal. So it would be much nicer for us to talk about the players we have and for me. But I can also understand that you have to ask this question, but your superior probably told you, and I know what his answer is going to be.
I told my superior.
Or you.
Oh, we've got to race through a lot of this, but let's start from a Liverpool perspective. I find it very difficult to know what he's going to say about this.
Yeah, ultimately, you know, the manager, particularly someone as clever and as intelligent as Arne Slot, is not going to start talking about a player that's not his player. But we have to ask the questions. And the fact that he's got that sort of hubris side to his character, he knows and understands what we do here at Sky Sports News. Transfers is big business, and we talk about it throughout the course of the summer. And there are so many fans that are desperate to know what happens with this man. Is he going to be at Newcastle or Liverpool on September the 2nd. So therefore, you know, he bats it away as you'd expect. I think the key thing that he said in all of the communications over the last week to 10 days is that Liverpool, yes, are happy with the squad they have, but they're in the market for an attacker. Not a striker, an attacker. Now, Liverpool would like to sign a player that can play as a 9, potentially as a 10, as a wide forward. So they're looking for someone that can play multiple positions, not necessarily someone that is just purely an out-and-out number 9, like Alexander Isak is. Newcastle's position is the same. Not for sale, and that was very clear in the statement that was released the other night. The conditions of a sale have not been met. The two conditions being, 1, A, pay the money we want, 150 million, and 2, significantly, we don't have a replacement in the building. That was always the proviso. We potentially would allow you to go if the money is right and we have a replacement. Those replacements, Liam Delap at Chelsea, Benjamin Šeško at Manchester United. We know that there is other targets as well that they've not been able to get over the line. Ekitike at Liverpool. So therefore, the potential of this man leaving diminishes day by day, and right now it looks very unlikely he leaves Newcastle United.
If he was to leave Newcastle, could Nicolas Jackson be a potential replacement? Enzo Maresca has made it clear that the forward is no longer part of his plans and he won't be in tomorrow's squad to face West Ham, despite being fully fit.
He is available, but he's not going to be part of the squad because, as we already said, we have 2 strikers, we have 2 players in that position, and also we know that something can happen before the window transfer close.
And is there anything on the horizon with Nicolas Jackson departing? Does he look close to a move away at the moment?
No idea, to be honest. No idea. You know already from last season that I prefer to be focused on train session, prepare the game. We see if they're going to be here, they're going to be with us. In case they are not here, that means that they found a solution. And at the end, I think it's always better if they can find a solution, because I think they're going to be more happy and the club the same.
They've put a big asking price on him. Where do you think he ends up?
We don't know at the moment, but I think Chelsea are pretty desperate to move him on. They've got to comply with the UEFA FFP rule. They've got to sort of break even on that. Look, they've made some pretty decent signings already, Chelsea. We know they sell incredibly well as well, so I'm sure they'll get this one sorted.
Do you feel it could end up being a loan, though?
I think they'd prefer a permanent one, really. But look, I think what we do know is that João Pedro, Liam Delap are ahead of him, and they want to get some movement because they want to bring Alejandro Garnacho and Xavi Simons. They must have these outgoings.
Yeah, plenty of churn, as is ever the case at Chelsea. Thank you very much to the boys. We'll be back at 7 o'clock.